Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you are watching Save Today with Heather J. I am somebody who has spent her entire adult life living paycheck to paycheck, being one life event away from financial crisis. And the longer I have lived that way, the more it has become an unacceptable way to live. So I have created this channel as a way to change my lifelong behaviors. It was my thought that in checking in with you guys with these videos, that it forces me to check in with myself and be a little bit more aware of what's going on. And by having a channel and having you guys here watching and conversing with me in the comment section, that is going to force me to continue with this longer term than I would have if it was just me. I did just start this journey and start this channel last month in May of 2023. This is my, very, very new to me. We've just started. I'm still in the learning process, and there's still a lot we need to do to get to where I need to be. Today's video is going to be my June paycheck number 1 check-in video to see how we did. I am a bi-weekly budgeter. I get paid hourly, and when I set up these budgets, I estimate a 38-hour work week for the 2 weeks, and I take 25% of my income out for taxes. And that's a very loose estimate. I can work anywhere from 32 to 40 hours and still be considered a full-time employee, but I estimate 38 hours. That's, for the most part, a fairly realistic amount of time. Occasionally it will be less, but it's been very consistently really closer to 40 for me. And then as far as my taxes go, when they come out of my check, it's something like 22.7 or some odd number that comes out. So I have chosen to estimate 25% just to make that a round number for myself. And so then that comes out to $1,140 as an estimate for myself. In this first paycheck that I received on May 19th, I actually received $1,190.87, which was $50.87 more than I had estimated that would be. I always tend to try and underestimate just a tiny bit the hours and overestimate just a tiny bit the taxes. So it's my hope that this will always be a little bit more than what I've done here. But if it's wrong, I don't want it to be so far wrong that I'm out a couple of $100s. So that means for my income, I made $1,190.87 for a positive of $50.87. The next thing I go over is my fixed expenses, and my fixed expenses are any of my bills that fall within that time frame. And I already said my rent was estimated at $853, and so my rent is $850. Setting it up for auto pay does have a $3 service fee attached to that, so that's why it's $853. And so that is exactly what my rent was, so there was no difference for that. And then I had a credit card payment that was coming out on this pay period for $100. That is exactly what that was. There was no difference there. This was my second to last payment on that credit card. The next payment was only $26.64, and I did kind of consider having that just be paid a little bit early, and ultimately decided it wasn't worth the hassle to try and change the plans that had been in place for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months at this point. Then my last bill on my fixed expenses was for U-Haul. The last time I moved, I chose to load my stuff into U-Haul boxes, essentially U-Haul's version of pods, and leave them in storage because I wasn't sure at the point I was packing to leave exactly where I was going to end up. I had 3 different options open to me, and I knew I wasn't going to be staying. I just didn't know where I was going to be ending up. So that seemed like the best option at that time. The other option would have been to load everything into a U-Haul truck and then unload it into a storage unit somewhere, and then load it back into a U-Haul truck and then take it to wherever it was I was at. And that was a lot of in and out and up and down and loading and unloading and paying movers, because I can't do that by myself. So I just chose, for convenience sake, to do it that route. It's the first time I've ever done it that route, and it's probably going to be the last time I ever do it that route. When I loaded the stuff, the estimate for bringing the stuff to where I needed to be was given to me at $1,600. When I finally got around to asking to have that sent, it was now $2,667, and I just haven't had that to bring my stuff to me. So it's literally been since October that I've not had my things with me. So that's quite a long period of time to be sleeping on an air mattress, and not having your pots and pans with you. So that is probably not something I'm ever going to do again. But that was $197.98. That was 2 boxes at $97.99 a box. That's due out on the end of the month. So that means my fixed expenses were exactly as I had estimated at $1,150.98. The next category I go over on these is my flexible spending. And for me, my flexible spending is groceries, dining out, transportation, my art, and miscellaneous. Those are the categories that I have a little bit of more flexibility over. If things are particularly tight, I can make adjustments to where I'm spending on these. I can go to some of the discount grocery stores and get cheaper groceries, or I can go to some of the whole food organic type stores where the groceries are going to cost me more. I can go to farmers market. All of those places have different varying degrees, and it's always going to vary on what I spend there. Same with dining out. I don't have to go out, and I certainly can choose, you know, a fast food meal, a McDonald's cheeseburger and fries at, you know, $5, or I can choose to go to a steakhouse and spend $50 on dinner. I have a lot of flexibility in how that happens. I can simply not go at all. Transportation, same thing. I have an option for, I mean, I have to have transportation. I can't sit at home all day, much as I would love to, because I am a homebody. But I definitely can have an option of taking the bus or having a car. And I don't have to drive any place outside of work if things are particularly tight. And then my art is something that I can spend more on some periods and spend less on other periods. And if it's too tight, I just don't get to. And then miscellaneous is just kind of a catch-all category for things that don't fall under my grocery budget, or I choose to buy them places that aren't where I get the rest of my groceries. And that's just kind of a catch-all because there's going to be things that I hadn't thought about to make a category for it. So for groceries, I budgeted $110 a week, which would have been $220 for this pay period. And I spent, let's get that up there so we don't see the extra. I spent $86.57 in this particular pay period, which means I still had available in my estimate $133.43 for my groceries. In dining out, I had estimated $25 a week for a total of $50 this pay period, and I spent $20.36 on dining out in this pay period. I think that was just one meal for 2 of us in this particular pay period, just Taco Bell, I believe. So that left me with $29.64 available for the rest, well, just over left in my income, just didn't get spent. Transportation, I estimated $40. I decided that I might be filling my gas tank up 4 times this month, once every 10 days. So in this pay period, that 10 days would have given me 1 fill up at $3.79 a gallon, plus my buses. So I actually spent this pay period just $7. That was the bus on 4 days one week, 3 days the next week. And I did not need to fill up the gas tank during this pay period. So that left me $33 under what I had budgeted. In my art, I budgeted myself $10 a week for a total of $20 this pay period. And I did not spend anything on my art in this pay period. This project I'm working on right now is a project that was started and the supplies were purchased 2 to 2.5 years ago. So for the most part, I don't think that there's going to be much I need to spend on that. Having said that, I did go last night and get something, and we'll talk about that at the end of my video for those who are interested in the craft portion. And then in my miscellaneous, I budgeted myself $10 a week for a total of $20 this pay period. And in this pay period, I spent $60.93 on miscellaneous. And so this is a category that last month I really struggled with. And this month seems to be a struggle as well. Either I need to budget myself more or recategorize what's falling under miscellaneous. So we'll have to evaluate that. That $60 is what I had estimated for this entire 6-week month. So we'll have to see how that goes going forward. So I still have $20 left in art, and I'm negative $40.93 in miscellaneous. That means my estimate was $350 for flexible spending. I only spent $174.86, which means I am under budget by $175.14 in my flexible spending. The next thing I want to go over is just kind of those balances and how they carry out. As you may recall, I had budgeted $1140 for income and $1150 for my fixed expenses, and $350 for my flexible expenses, which would have had me negative $360.98, which was not at all realistic, obviously. I don't have $360.98 to sit in my budget. So that's something I'm looking at as I go forward in June and July. I have made my flexible spending estimates to be something that's very consistent week after week after week. But that isn't actually how my paychecks go, how my bills go. At the beginning of the month, I have very large bills, obviously rent, and there is very little flexible after those bills are paid. And then the following paycheck, there tends to be very small bills or few bills, and there's significantly more that could be spent in flexible spending. So as I go forward, I'm going to have to consider either, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to take this out and then this out. I have to decide, am I going to save money from previous checks to buffer the flexible spending at the beginning of the month, or am I going to adjust how I do my budgets and have less flexible spending just budgeted in to those beginning of the month checks? That's something I have to evaluate. The way my life currently is a bit of a feast and famine situation where there's almost nothing, and then there's lots and lots, and then almost nothing, and then lots and lots. And the challenge is, when you go through a period of famine, you tend to overfeast. So in this pay period here, where I only spent the $20 in dining out, oftentimes then that following paycheck, we tend to go out a lot. It's not just about the going out, but if my available budget was low, then that also means my groceries that I was able to buy are low. And so there isn't a whole lot left in the house by the time that next paycheck comes with which to make complete meals at the end of the day. So it's easier to just go get something to eat to fill the belly at that point in time, as opposed to going to buy a lot of groceries, then coming home and unloading them and putting them where they belong, and then cooking dinner at the end of whatever your day has been. So that feast and famine cycle is a very real cycle that I tend to live in. It's not comfortable. There's changes that need to be made, but this awareness of how to evaluate that is where I'm at right now. So let's go over what those final numbers were for me. I had estimated $1140 in my income. I actually had $1190.87, over $50.87. My fixed was exactly as I had budgeted, no difference there. And then my flexible, I had estimated $350. I spent $174.86, leaving me with $175.14. That means my spending was over budget by $134.97, which was less than I had estimated by $226.01. So if I don't have flexible spending, or I don't have anything set aside, how did I have this negative $134.97? How am I negative in my account? I am not negative in my account because I had worked on my budget in May I was aware that this paycheck was coming up, and I did save about I think it was $160, $158. I had saved some money in my accounts from the week previous, knowing that this was going to be coming out of the account. So this $134.97, I did actually end up this paycheck the day before my next check. I had $20.87 or something in my account. So I barely had made it through. I did not go under there. And that's another thing where these estimates are a little bit unrealistic, because again, they're taking a look at an idealistic situation that is a single event without addressing what happens prior and what happens after. So I'm still learning. There's a lot of moving parts to this whole process, and that's where I'm at with that. So that's how I finished out paycheck number 1 in June. And I'm going to stop the budgeting portion of the video here. After my budgeting portion of the video, I have chosen to bring my craft into the back end for those who are interested in following along that journey. And for the month of June, this is a project my eldest granddaughter and I had been working on. If you have watched any of these other videos, you will know that she had gone with me to Joann's Fabrics and picked out some fabrics in a pillow form and asked me to make her a heart-shaped pillow. I did just finish that, and I went over that in my last video, which was my week 2 spending check-in, I believe. So now we're moving on to what I'm doing with what's left of the fabric, which is to turn that into a light fleece blanket for her. And so fleece is very hard to sew. For those who are not aware, fleece has a tendency to stretch and move, and it doesn't stay, because it's not a woven product, it doesn't hold its form very well, and it can be very difficult to use in a true quilting type situation where I would be sewing lots of lines through that. Fleece does not fray, so for a lot of reasons it's good. For those reasons it's good for a lot of uses. And there are blanket kits that they make for young people between the ages of 12, where they actually will cut slits on the edges of the blanket and then tie those fringes that are left into knots, and that's how the blanket is held together. That's not how I want to do it. It's not a look I like. And I have skills with the sewing machine that make needing to tie that off not necessary. But if it's stretchy and doesn't stay in shape, well, how am I going to make that work and not get myself frustrated? Well, one of the things I did was I bought some pool noodles. You may be wondering, how is pool noodles going to help you sew that? What you do is you roll the fabric over the pool noodle to keep it in shape, which I have done with this one here. Let's see. So you roll that there, you roll the other one on it, and then you put the 2 pieces together and roll them out together so they all stay in a nice tight form on the pool noodle, and that helps things stay together. I'm just planning to sew around the edges and maybe just across from corner to corner or something. I don't want to tie it off too much. Again, it stretches. The more stitching I put within the blanket, the more it's going to pill and pool because of that stretching. So I might actually just lay the 2 layers together and just put the binding on and call that done. We'll have to see how that goes. But I've got the first one rolled, and I'll roll the second one and move forward in that process over the next couple of videos. This can be either very easy to pull together, or it can become very frustrating to pull together. And I don't know how this is going to go for us. So if it's done early, and by early I mean before the end of my June, I have another 4 weeks left in my June budget. So I probably will, I hope this doesn't take me 4 weeks to do this blanket. I'm hoping I'll have to bring a second project into June, something that I can be finished before July starts. So we'll see how that goes, but that's where I'm at with that. I'm starting to move forward on the blanket, and I'm just getting some of the pre-work done to get this lined up and make that easy to get on the machines. But that's all I have for you guys today. I will have more videos coming. I I did have some issues with storage on my phone. I had one video I recorded literally 4 times, probably a 5th time, as I was trying to figure out what the storage situations were. But now that that's fixed, I have a backlog of things I need to go over. So what we should have coming up in the pipeline is my paycheck number 2 setup, my week number 3 budget check-in, and I have one other kind of one-off video that I wanted to do. So that should be coming over the course of this next week. And by the time those are done, then it will be time for week 4's check-in. So, and then paycheck number 3 setup. So we've got a lot coming up in the pipe here, because I've been a little, I got backlogged based on that one, based on my storage issues. Anyway, that is it for me today. I thank you for checking in with me. Again, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, choose to have some fun today. Thank you now. Bye-bye.